Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with more cards using some elements from Simon Says Stamps May 2023 card kit. Specifically a couple panels of their Pastel color blend cardstock that come in the kit, also available separately. As always, I'll have links. I had mentioned in a recent video that I was pretty sure these panels can be hot foiled onto because they have like a glossy finish. So that was, sitting in the back of my mind, and I was like, I need to hot foil on these because I think it's going to be pretty fabulous. So I chose a couple panels and I pulled out, this is the mini Slimline falling confetti hot foil plate. And then I have some Spellbinders PRISM Glimmer foil, which as you can see is amazing. It's like silvery and then it reflects all the colors of the rainbow, and I love it. All those extra pieces, I save those because they're a good size, so I will use those on another project. Sentiments, any of that sort of hot foiling, they're perfect for that. I just kind of roll them up back into little tubes and stick them. I have a little cup near my Glimmer hot foil machine. So after I trim down the foil close to the size of this hot foil plate, what's been working for me is I use little pieces of Spellbinders narrow tape. This comes in 3 widths. I have all 3. I use this narrow one for hot foiling, and then the slightly wider one, which you'll see here in a second, I use for heavier plates like this, holding down my wafer dies, that sort of a thing. And it just works. So I tape the hot foil to the cardstock I want to hot foil on, which in this case is this color blend paper. I'm trying to be a little careful with the tape because I'm not going to do any die cutting. But even then, because it has a glossy finish, the tape just comes off. Plus the Spellbinders tape honestly does come off quite nicely. I've had other tapes that like fuse to the cardstock, but this stuff works. So I got everything taped into place. My Glimmer hot foil machine was already turned on, ready to go. I put the, hot foil plate, the foil, the cardstock onto it, press the timer. It takes about a minute to heat up. When the light goes solid, I take that all out with the shim and the plate, and I run it slowly through my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Then I remove everything, and I'm going to remove the tape and the foil and the plate. And I was right. This color blend cardstock does foil like a dream. And this foil's fabulous. Like the rainbow reflect. I was like, yes. My inner magpie was very happy. So repeat the process with the second card panel and the foil and the plate. I'm just going to tape it into place. The Glimmer hot foil machine is heating up and is already ready to go again. And then I will put everything face down onto there, hit the timer button, put the shim and the top plate on there, and again, takes about a minute. Once it's ready to go, I'll run it through my Platinum 6 again, and I just go slowly. This is actually sped up just a little bit in editing, but I just go slow when I'm running my plates through the machine. Just nice, slow, steady, even pressure. So far, so good. I have just... And every time, when you get good results, it's like, yay! So, got these backgrounds foiled. And then I'm going to trim these down a little bit. I could just leave them as is, and it'd be just fully edge to edge. But more often than not, I like trimming them down a bit, so I've got a bit of the card base as a border around everything. So I took off just like 1/4 of an inch. So these end up being like 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And then to make them into shaker cards, I just grabbed a piece of packaging. I save all my, cellophane packaging. Like this would have come, cardstock most likely came in this. And I've done a ton of videos on flat shaker cards. I have an entire playlist. I will link to that at the end of this video if you haven't, seen it or, just want to get more ideas. I've done all sorts of flat shaker cards using all sorts of different things. There's, pouches available now. There's a lot of options, which is just fun. And this is one I do quite a lot because I have a stack. I have a stack of packaging that just comes in handy. So I cut down the packaging to larger than these panels. And then I'm just using Simon's Terrific tape, and I just put some on the back around the edges, and then I just keep folding up each edge of the packaging, pressing it into the tape adhesive, and then I use my scissors to just trim off the corners there, because they, like, once you fold everything over, they, pop up or they pop over the edge. So I just trim those off just like so with my scissors, and it's good to go. So I seal up 3 sides. I apply the adhesive to the 4th side, but we're not going to seal it up yet. You got to leave that open to add the shaker bits. So I'm going to do the exact same thing with the second panel, the second piece. And yeah, like I said, there are lots of options now. I'm kind of liking, like, there's, card front options, and a bunch of companies have come up with different shape options. Like, Waffle Flower has, like, I think it's a butterfly shape, or is that one a little, I think that one actually pops up a little bit, but they've got different shapes, like basic shapes, to do little flat shakers. And again, they're fun. Like, you can never go wrong with a shaker card regardless, and building up with the foam, and you can add more little bits and stuff. But there's something about flat shakers that I really enjoy. And these ones I managed to keep, and I'll show at the end just how flat they are. It's just fun. So did the same thing with this second card front, sealed up all 3 sides, added the adhesive to the back of the 4th. And then I'm going to fill these with the Surprise Party sequin mix that comes in the kit, also available separately. And what I had left over, because I'd used these on previous cards as well. And I just filled, because, like, they're kind of the focus of this card. Plus they're pretty. All the, like, rainbow, like, kind of holographic goodness went perfectly with the hot foil background, and it also brought in, like, more color. So love. So dumped those in there. Then I flipped it over, removed the backing, and sealed up both of these cards, trimmed off those little corner bits that like to stick out. And now I've got 2 flat shaker panels with all these rainbow colors, and then, yeah, the holographic confetti that, seriously, love it. So once I got those done, I now need to add, like, the sentiments. So I took a piece of black cardstock, and I have a sentiment from the Best Year Yet stamp set. This also comes in the kit. And I put the cardstock into my mini MISTI, lined up this big happy birthday stamp. I used my anti-static powder tool all over this. I stamped it with clear embossing ink, and then I just rotated it to stamp it a second time so I can get both sentiments on here. And then I'm going to coat this with Simon's Detail White embossing powder. Tap off the excess. I'll grab a little dry paintbrush to just grab a couple, there's always those couple little random pieces of embossing powder that just like to stick where they don't belong. So remove those, and then melted this with my heat tool. Once that all of the embossing was, glossy and melted, which I always just tilt it back and forth in the light, making sure that there's no, like, dull grainy areas. Let that cool off for a few seconds. I use my little microfiber cloth to wipe off all that excess anti-static powder. And then I'm going to use the coordinating wafer dies. These at the moment might be out of stock, but they will be restocking them soon, ASAP. But yeah, I had the coordinating wafer dies, so of course I was going to use it. So tape that into place onto the sentiment. Once I got that lined up, I just used my little Empress Mini to die cut these, because it's right here. I've been keeping it on my desk. I've been showing it in the recent videos, and yeah, I am a fan of this little machine. And you can see by the plate, I have only had this machine for like about a couple months now, and I've been putting it through its paces, and I'm quite pleased with this thing. So die cut the first sentiment, lined up the wafer die with the second one again, and I just tape it in place with washi tape so the wafer die doesn't move when I run it through my die cut machine. And run that through a second time. So I've got both of my sentiments die cut. So once that's done, I took my card bases, which are going to be top folding A2 white note cards. So they'll be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to put those into my mini MISTI. And I'm going to stamp this Wish Big sentiment from that same stamp set. So I got everything lined up. And then I just rub my fingers all over my stamps, especially when they're brand new. There is a coating that is just the natural process of making high quality like photopolymer stamps. So when they're brand new, they tend to repel ink. So rubbing my fingers on them works great. You could also use like a white eraser, works great. Another thing is just inking them up multiple times, stamping it onto like scrap paper and cleaning them off. Any of those sorts of things work just to kind of condition your stamps. You notice it a lot more, like the more like solid and wide, so like a big sentiment like that Wish Big, you can notice it more when they're brand new. So if you're having issues with that, just try those little tricks. And the biggest thing is the more you use stamps, the better they stamp. And you guys see that with some of my oldie but goodie stamps that I pull out quite often that are just stained, and I've used them a million times, but they stamp perfectly. Love. So anyway, anywho, I stamped the little companion sentiments under it with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And then I took the teeny little Starburst type stamps. There's several of them in this set. I only thought there was 2, but there was actually more. So I put those onto acrylic blocks, because they go with the sentiment on the front. But this also is a way for me to bring in more of the like colors of the confetti onto the inside of the card. So I just inked these up with more of Simon's Positively Saturated inks. I used Tide Pool for the sentiment and Lilac for the other sentiment. And then for the little like starburst images, I used like Sunbeam, Bubblegum, Cadet, and Tide Pool again. And I'll have links to everything with the supplies like I always do. But yeah, I just went around and just stamped those kind of randomly onto the inside of the card. And it just gives it that little something, you know, and just kind of mimics the shaker bits on the front of the card. So after I had stamped that all over the inside of the card, I'm going to start assembling the card front. So for those die cut sentiments, I put the Terrific tape on the back of this just because when it comes to adhering anything to like acetate, plastic, etc., I prefer to use what I call a dry adhesive like the Terrific tape, Score tape, Redline tape, things like that. I find this holds the absolute best. Liquid adhesives do work if they're a strong adhesive, but I still prefer dry adhesives like this, at least for like the majority of it. So I did the same thing with the back of these shaker panels. I just put strips of that Terrific tape on the back and then pop these onto the card bases. So once those are popped into place, I am going to put the sentiments on top. Sometimes, another option is if you want a little bit of dimension or just a really good like adhesion, you can use foam tape. That works wonderfully as well. Normally I would do that, but I was just determined. I wanted to see just how flat I could make these cards. Otherwise, I would have popped them up with foam tape because that just gives it, you know, some fun dimension. But I used the Terrific tape and then just a little bit of craft tacky glue on those little narrower areas because I was not going to fiddle with like adding Terrific tape to those tiny little areas. Who's got time for that? Little bit of craft tacky glue does the job. Stuck those under acrylic blocks till the glue dried. And then these cards are complete and they're shaky. How fun. Seriously, especially for birthday cards. What's more fun than like shaker, rainbow, holographic, shiny? It's like a little celebration on a card. I love it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said earlier, I will have a link to my playlist with all the flat shaker cards I've done. That'll be at the end of this video. I'll link to the other couple videos I've done so far, like the one where I unboxed the kit and made a couple cards because I die cut some of these color panels. And then I did other cards recently using the color panels where I heat embossed on them. So I'll have links to all those at the very end of this video so you can check them out. And then below the video, I'll link to my blog post. I'll have a supply list. I'll link to all the supplies I used so you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so very much for watching, thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.